Okay, so, all right, well, by hearing the Bhagavatam, our material desires, which are what are causing us suffering, are desires out of ignorance, and the expectations we hold when we hold such desires, and the disappointment we feel when they inevitably can never all come true. And all the trouble in our heart will be dispelled by hearing Bhagavatam, and what will come instead is love for the Supreme Lord will arise by hearing this Bhagavatam. So we're fortunate actually that we get to hear it. Before we begin, I will try to do what I mistakenly didn't do last night and offer at least a Mangal Charana, chanting some auspicious prayers and mantras, which are supposed to be in reverence and homage to our lineage of teachers, the cyclic succession from which the mercy of the Lord is traveling through to reach us here, and then ultimately up to the Lord himself and the Lord's very dear and near and dear associates. So, that's the point.
Shalakaya Chakshun Militangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtan Stapitangena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Gadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpa Chayubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Ti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vasudha Deshatarine.
So, we'll continue on with the Bhagavatam here. Where are we? In the last few verses, Maharaj Parikshit was trying to question the personality of Dharma. Who's done this to you? Who's beating you and Mother Earth? Who's to blame for your suffering? But they were very hesitant to cast blame because they actually understand the deeper truth that actually everything's the arrangement of the Lord. So if the Lord wants us to get beaten or abused by someone else, we actually wouldn't necessarily blame the abuser. We actually, the exalted devotee is not blaming at all. The exalted devotee is accepting, if they're seeking the Lord's mercy, they accept what's happening and understand that this is due to my reactions that I've earned in this world. But the solution is with their heart, with their words, and with their body. They will offer that as make some offering to the Lord with those, with their inner thoughts, their inner desires, with their words, and with their actions in the body. And then when they do that, then they can expect the Lord's mercy. But anyhow, so Dharma is kind of doing that. He's accepting, he's tolerating. And now Maharaj Parikshit, he's acting in his way because he's ready to chastise the offender, Kali. And he's continuing on and he says, Athavadeva mayaya. Oh, sorry, we did that. But it says, that it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. So before that, he says, Maharaj Parikar said, "Oh, you are in the form of a bull. You know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principle that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion." So can you imagine this, what's happening, what the implication of this? Like for instance, one of the most criticized personalities on the planet is Donald Trump. Yes, so he's done this, and he's done this. But all the people criticizing him, the same destination that he is destined to go, they will also go. Isn't that amazing? That everybody who is taking part in criticizing others for their faults is bound to acquire the same faults and bound to get the same type of destination. What's that?
Scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. So this is why the advanced devotee, they don't criticize. They don't criticize others because they're not interested in focusing on people's faults, and also they know that all these things are coming out of ignorance only. No one would criticize a mentally disabled person, because they can't speak how most of society can speak. So similarly, the devotee, because they're realizing that it's very inappropriate, so I won't say it how, but because the whole society is spiritually disabled, they don't criticize the spiritually disabled society because they realize, they have a spiritual disability, like this. They have a spiritual disability, so the devotee is not interested in criticizing them due to their disabilities. Just like we wouldn't. You don't it's very, very wrong to sit there and criticize the mentally disabled. So samely, the devotee, because most of the world is spiritually disabled, you wouldn't criticize these people. And they don't realize, Bhagavatam is saying, in the principles of religion, they say, the destination for the one who is doing the sinning acts, and for those who identify and blame and those things, also is also there. Good morning. No problem. Go on through. So that's actually quite amazing, and we didn't really touch on that last time. But anyhow, so it's concluded the Lord's energies are inconceivable, and no one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. So this is our process here. We understand everything's happening by the Lord's arrangement. We cannot conceive why it's happening. We just have to trust and accept. And ideally, with the heart, with the words, and with the body, we make an offering to the Lord, and we can always expect His mercy this way. So this is conclusion of Lord Brahma after he got bewildered by the inconceivable energy of the Lord. But let's continue on. Tapasho changdaya satyam iti pada krite krita adharmang shaistrayo bhagna smaya sangha madaistava. Tapa, austerity. Shocham, cleanliness. Daya, mercy. Satyam, truthfulness. Iti, thus. Pada, legs. Krite, in the age of Satya. Krita, established. Adharma, irreligiosity. Angshai, by the parts. Traya, three combined. Bhagna, broken. Smaya, pride. Sangha, too much association with women. That'll be interesting. Madai, intoxication. Tava, your. In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your four legs were established by the four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that three of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. So, pride, lust for women, and intoxication have broken three of the legs. What three legs? have been broken. Um, Mercy, which is inevitably has to be in the form of pride. When you're proud, and arrogant, you can do any horrible act and not think that it's sinful. Um, and lust for women, you can do any unclean act and think it's fine. And intoxication, you can, you'll think everything's lax. You don't have to have discipline and all these things. So these things actually kill. Anyway, let's hear what Prabhupada says. The deluding energy or material nature can act upon the living beings proportionately in terms of the living beings falling prey to the deluding attraction of Maya. Moths are captivated by the glaring brightness of light, and thus they become prey to the fire. Similarly, the deluding energy is always captivating the conditioned souls to become prey to the fire of delusion. And the Vedic scriptures warn the conditioned souls not to become prey to delusion, but to get rid of it. So like Maya and her many attractions in this world are like a bright, glowing fire. But if we embrace the fire, we'll get burnt to like a crisp. Just like the moth, it sees the light, it sees the fire. I don't know if in India they have a lot of bug zappers in Mayapur in specific. There's yes. In Mayapur in specific, in the main grocery store in the Mayapur complex, there's this like very high-powered bug zapper. But what do? It's got this big glaring light, and then the bugs are attracted, and then they just and every minute you hear like it's just blasting bugs. Actually, a lot of the devotees have a really big problem with it. They hate it, and they're like, I've heard some devotees complaining to the store, complaining to the swamis about it. Not that the noise is an inconvenience, but that they're murdering bugs on like a wholesale. But anyway, that's not for us to really talk about. But this is actually what the delusions of Maya are. Maya is like the material glimmer of this world. For some prestige and pride, position. The lust for women. This was primarily spoken. Remember, this was spoken by men for men, primarily back in the day. And usually the woman would get educated through the husband. That was the traditional way, actually. But anyhow, now or maybe they have like a guru or something like that. There are rare circumstances, but usually the woman through the husband would get educated. This, at least for thousands of years, it was like this. And I would say, well, now it's different. Women and men. It's better now. I don't know about that, because women, that's why women, belittle men so much in their life, because still the men, now they make the women do double what the women always did in history. The women used to do so much in maintaining the home because it's actually natural to them. It's very natural to create a space and expand upon it and make it beautiful and pretty and all these things. But now, ever since the propagandists in the early 1900s, they said, no, women should work. Everyone should give women equal rights. They just wanted to also collect taxes from them and all these things. And then now the women do double. Like, for instance, my mother, it's not like my dad's home doing all the chores and doing all the activities. He doesn't care about the home because men naturally don't. Men really don't care that much to beautify the home. That's why if you ever go to a man's apartment, it's just very plain and it's just like kind of like a dull space where the man just resides and it's fine. But if a woman, you could tell when a woman lives somewhere, because when a woman lives somewhere, it's beautiful, it's cleaner, it's done up nicely, because it's very natural for them. So now they force the woman to do everything. The woman's now working like the man, has to do all the things a man would have to do all day, and then come home, and then the man's not inclined to do this thing at home, and then the woman is still inclined to do it, and so now they do double. And it's actually a very sad, thing. So everyone say, "Oh, it's better now. The woman has so much more freedom now." No, the woman is twice the slave that she was, before. Because now that she's a slave at the job and then at home, because the man won't do it, and then there's all kinds of friction and then problems, and that's why, now there's the propaganda that's going on, even commercials, that men are useless. No, men are not useless. Men have their role and women have their role. But because now the women want to do the man's role, now it appears that the man is useless because now the woman is doing both man and woman's role. And it's making the man more useless. But it's actually not. Okay, so anyway, uh, it was the man's job to really go and pursue deeply education, to pursue proper protection, to pursue finances and how to provide for the family. Traditionally, these were the men's job, and now it's everybody's job. But still, it's definitely not what I would say a better situation. I mean, the reason it evolved the way it did because there have been plenty of men abused their so-called superior position or their leadership position, and that's why it is the way it is today. But ultimately, following this ancient system, which at least me and my wife have found in our cohabiting with each other, is that, yeah, it makes it so much easier to just try and play the roles by the Vedic principles. And it's more natural and it's easier, and it actually gives a lot more meaning in the relationship. So anyway, that's side note. But that's why it would be like, well, why would lust for women, just what lust for women? That's just primarily who it was speaking to men, and a man's downfall would be lust for women. Now, at the same time, for a woman, lust for men could be equally the downfall. But anyhow, just to give you a little context, the Vedas warn us to go not to the darkness of ignorance, but to the progressive path of light. This was like we just had this festival of light, Diwali, not to be caught up in the ignorance of delusions and illusions in this world, and go to the progressive path of light, which leads one to the realization of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord himself also warns that the deluding power of material energy is too powerful to overcome. But one who completely surrenders unto the Lord can easily do so. But to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is also not very easy. Such surrender is possible by persons of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. We talk about the 6 limbs of surrender. And I actually have been reading about the final limb, which is karpanya, or humility. And oh man, yeah, it's a complete, it very much has to do with this overcoming pride, because it's a complete, really, in order to be surrendered, you actually have to find yourself worthless. Like worthless. Like we have such a tendency to try to, put such great value on ourselves and our achievements and things like that. But if you really want mercy, if you really want to find humility, you have to totally and wholly feel yourself worthless. Be totally and wholly acknowledge all of the misdeeds that you have done in the past and you continue to do under the, behind closed doors. And you have to feel yourself completely worthless. But that's one of the limbs of surrender. It's taking this extremely humble mood, not just by words, but by the whole consciousness. But anyhow, you see one of the limbs of surrender is anukulyasya sankalpe, which is doing all the not avoiding all the things you're not supposed to do, like the 4 regulative principles. And then the other one is pratikulyasya. Pratikulyasya, is it varjanam? Yes, varjanam. And that's following all the rules that you are supposed to do, like being austere, clean, merciful, truthful, and so on. And if you do that, you can actually progress towards surrender to the Lord. But if you avoid any of these things, then you'll not be able to surrender. You'll never be able to actually get anywhere with Krishna. So that's why, personally, in my life, in my wife's life, half of our work that we've done and made spiritually has just been in learning how to follow the rules properly. Learning how to be austere, clean, merciful, and truthful. And we're still learning. And to avoid the things in life, the many things in life which take you away from that. So anyhow, and then now some more surrender has come. We're advancing on the path of surrender. And then maybe bhakti can actually begin when the surrender, pure bhakti can happen one day, hopefully. So such surrender is possible by persons of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. These four principles of advanced civilization were remarkable features in the age of Satya. In that age, every human being was practically a qualified Brahmin of the highest order. And in the social orders of life, they were all Paramahamsas, or the topmost in the renounced order. By cultural standing, the human beings were not at all subjected to the deluding energy. Such strong men of character were competent enough to get away from the clutches of Maya. But gradually, as the basic principles of Brahminical culture, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, became curtailed by proportionate development of pride, attachment for women, and intoxication, the path of salvation, or the path of transcendental bliss, retreated far, far away from human society. So actually, in the beginning of the, you could say, golden age, everyone was like a Brahmin of the highest order. Someone who is pure and follows all religious principles and has such high character and high discipline, and they're clean, they're merciful, they're just so wonderful. But over time, slowly, there's a proportionate development of pride, attachment for women, and intoxication. The deluding energy slowly creeps in, and it slowly wears down this pure human society. And then eventually you get what we have today, where now the pride, attachment for women, and intoxication are more prominent than any type of good character human beings. So this is the unfortunate circumstances that we're in. So with the progression of the age of Kali, people are becoming very proud and attached to women and intoxication. By the influence of the age of Kali, even a pauper is proud of his penny. I was telling you guys the story of the homeless person last night, how proud he was, where he couldn't even accept. We got him food, and he's, I don't want this. You got any coffee? Like, how could you be so proud in such a position? We caught you sleeping on the sidewalk, and we're just trying to help. But this is actually the truth. Even a pauper is proud of his penny. The women are always dressed in an overly attractive fashion to victimize the minds of men. And the man is addicted to drinking wine, smoking, drinking tea, and chewing tobacco, etc. All these habits are so-called advancement of civilization, are the root causes of all irreligiosities. And therefore it is not possible to check corruption, bribery, and nepotism. Nepotism was favoritism of like family and unqualified people, relatives, and things like that. Man cannot check all these evils simply by statutory acts and police vigilance, like creating laws and things like that. But he can cure the disease of the mind by the proper medicine, namely advocating the principles of Brahminical culture, or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. This is why Prabhupada, he inaugurated the four regulative principles, because these would be the basic ways that you can set a bar towards a life more of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. By breaking any one of the four regulative principles, you're like putting a wholesale attack on the leg of Dharma. Like, let's say, you're one of the hardest is a sex life. Let's say you're plagued by sex life or masturbation or anything like this. The whole idea of internal, especially internal cleanliness. External cleanliness, yes, it's an externally unclean activity. But internal cleanliness will be the most disturbed. And the mind will always be thinking of these lusty, debaucherous activities, instead of, being able to actually think of wholesome, pure activities. So if you break it, you just like a wholesale attack, chop down a leg of Dharma. And so what's to speak? You won't actually be able to cultivate any of the good qualities that need to be cultivated because you're performing acts that just completely chop it down. So that's one of, but all of them. Intoxication is the same way with austerity. You'll have all discipline will go all out, right out the window. Um, uh, Lack of mercy, violence. Like I'm actually having little bit of anxiety. We've had this mouse that we've caught here now for like practically over a day now. He's got to be getting thirsty, and we got to get him outside to where he needs to go. So I'm gonna try and take him with me. But we can't do acts of violence. If we do acts of violence, then this merciful, compassionate, wonderful quality of universal love for other beings can never be cultivated if we're violent. Especially if say we eat meat. We're violent just by nature, just by the way we survive. We're like, yeah, I'll pay the killer to kill the animals and chop them up nicely and deliver them to us. But this is, we'll never cultivate these good qualities if we perform these activities of a wholesale attack on the legs of Dharma. And then finally, also gambling. Prabhupada had gambling, and I learned this the hard way recently. There's different, things you could do with money and stocks and crypto and this, that, and the other thing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be gambling, but the way it's set up is it encourages you to gamble. And actually it's all manipulated, like casinos are manipulated by the casino. I'm learning the crypto, the stocks, even the gold and money markets, they're all manipulated by the rich and wealthy. They are manipulating, they're rigging the system, they're rigging the game. And unless you're an insider on their plans, you'll never be able to predict what it's going to do. So it's actually practically a gamble at every step of the way. It's hard to, really, I've been almost in anxiety about what to do with the wealth, because, you say, well, just print your dollars or just earn some dollars and hold your dollars. But even that's a gamble, because they're just printing more and more and doing this thing where, the dollar is decreasing. So actually, Prabhupada actually tells here what is real wealth. Gold is real wealth, rubies are real wealth, land, cows, animal, these are real wealth. So it's even myself, not so easy to avoid all these things, not so easy. And I actually failed earlier this past few months, where I some realizing and some not realizing, put myself in a gambling position, and I, as it's designed to do, lost due to the dishonest nature of the markets. But this is my own, problem due to greed and things like this. But anyhow, but by getting absorbed and wrapped up in these things, the honesty principles of life can't be cultivated. So we have to be honest. We have to be live these dharmic principles, how to do our duties. Now I'm much more attracted to, starting like an honest business with Madhav and going to the farmer's market and, giving prasadam to the people and maybe distributing books and things like this. And a lot more can be done in that way, because it's more dharmic. But anyhow, by the influence, no, I said that already. So you need to advocate for the principles of Brahminical culture, the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. That's why this system, it eventually wants everyone to take initiation as a Brahmin. Why? So that you cultivate these Brahminical principles, so that actually you can surrender. Not even so you can like be some high level bhakta and things like that. No, so you can actually begin the bhakti process. You're not even beginning. That was I went down to North Carolina, and we had a Ras festival, and because I was like one of the most junior speakers there. I was the most junior speaker there. I got the topic of the most basic Ras, Shanta Ras. It's usually the topic no one wants, but I was actually ecstatic to get this topic, because most people, almost everyone, is not even at that platform, not even have any taste of Ras. Why? Because we can't actually surrender. We can't even get the actual principles of Dharma down to a point where we can actually surrender to the Lord. So when it's to speak of tasting any ras, nothing, But we were talking about the rasas, and everyone was talking about more and more what the rasas are like. But mine was, I was so ecstatic to have Shantaras because this is the one that's most practical for everybody. And then the whole class was on how we have no chance of even tasting any ras. What's to speak of Shantaras? What's to speak of any of the higher rasas if we don't uh, purify these sinful plagues, which I myself am finding. I've been really hard on myself this past month, and actually deserve to be harder on myself because I'm somebody who should somehow or other, at least I think I should, be not fall into such foolish traps. Even when I know better, but because I am practically useless, always falling into different levels of Maya. So anyhow, this if we ever want a chance at surrendering to the Lord, these principles have to be cultivated. To be austere, be very disciplined, to be very clean in our dealings, in our life, externally clean, but internally clean, focused on wholesome spiritual things, not always trying to enjoy, especially a sex life. Merciful, compassionate, loving to all living beings, even the bugs and the mice and these things. And then truthful, honest in our dealings, honest with ourselves, honest with others. Not being duplicitous, saying one thing and doing or feeling another thing. All these things. So modern civilization and economic development are creating a new situation of poverty and scarcity, with the result of blackmailing the consumers' commodities. So actually, that's what I was just trying to tell you about the financial situation. They're blackmailing the consumers' commodities, and all these politicians, they're bought and they're threatened, and if they go outside of the line of the most shadow government type of people who are running things, they get killed or assassinated or this, that, and the other. Many people think maybe that's why this Charlie Kirk got assassinated. He was speaking against some of the inappropriate wars that were happening. And then next thing you know, he's gone. John F. Kennedy got assassinated. He was also talking about this shadow government. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, John Lennon, all these people, they talk about these things. And if you're in any position of fame, or where people are paying attention to you, Michael Jackson would even was going outside and talking about things he probably they felt he shouldn't be talking about. And next thing you know, also everyone's leaving. Joan Rivers, she got assassinated. I don't even want to tell you, but I'll say it, why not? But she got assassinated because she was relaying that Michelle Obama was a man, like of the transgender nature. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, she left soon after that. That's a whole nother can of worms. Yes, you don't want to get into these things too much. Absorb the consciousness. But this happens actually because people are being blackmailed, and the situation is to leave the peasants of society, us, deeper into poverty and to accumulate more for the elite, who they work their way into those positions. And so the consumers' commodities, like I just witnessed the other day, I thought it would be safer to put my money in gold, and it appeared safer. It was going up and up and up and up. Next thing you know, gold crash. They manipulate everything. You can't even trust proper commodities anymore. Eventually, because gold is real value, it will eventually go back up again. But they can manipulate anything. So it's everything. It's like, how do you navigate? The dollar is getting devalued, gold's being devalued, cryptocurrency, they're trying to push everyone there, but that's just gonna put all our money financially, and then they'll just crash that at one point. It's just it's a crazy world. But if the leaders and the rich men of the society spend 50% of their accumulated wealth mercifully for the misled mass of people and educate them in God consciousness, the knowledge of Bhagavatam, certainly the age of Kali will be defeated in an attempt to entrap the conditioned souls. So this, if the rich leaders, if they themselves weren't so, hell-bent on advancing Kali, and if they actually educated the misled masses of people in these principles, so that we can have the age of Kali will be defeated, Prabhupada is saying. This is the conclusion of Bhagavatam. It will completely misdirect the misguided civilization. But we must always remember that false pride or too high an estimation of one's own values of life, this was the theme of yesterday's pastime. Undue attachment to women or association with them. An intoxication will divert human civilization from the path of peace, however much the people clamor for peace in the world. The preaching of the Bhagavatam principles will automatically render all men austere, clean, both inside and outside, merciful to the suffering, and truthful in daily behavior. That is the way of correcting the flaws of human society, which are very prominently exhibited at the present moment. So these are the 4 pillars of Dharma, and they're under attack, and they're practically all but lost, but because there is still this truth, in most religions they still have elements of truth, but this original truth, this original Vedic truth, the most ancient religion on the planet, is still here, and it's still giving the religious principles. Honesty is not lost yet, and so we can still learn the truth. At some point, when honesty gets completely lost and the truth can no longer be grasped, the Lord himself will have to come and reset society. They talk about the not financial people, but the kind of conspiracy guys are talking about some great reset that's going to happen with all the financial systems of the world and stuff like that. But the real great reset is actually when the Lord himself, he finds the people here so degraded, and that, okay, let's go clean house. And he'll reestablish another Satya Yuga. But anyway, that's actually explained. So let's do at least one more verse. Idaning dharma padaste tasatyang nirvartayed yataha tangji grikshatya dharmoyam anritenaidita kali. Idanim, at the present moment. Dharma, O personality of religion. Pada, leg, te, of you. Satyam, truthfulness. Nirvartaya, hobbling along somehow or other. Yata, whereby. Tam, that. Jidrikshati, trying to destroy. Adharma, the personality of your religion. Ayam, this. Anratena, by deceit. Edita, flourishing. Kali, quarrel personified. You are now standing on one leg only, which is your truthfulness, and you are somehow or other hobbling along. But quarrel personified, Kali, flourishing by deceit, is also trying to destroy that leg. So this is how the agents of Kali will advance. They'll flourish by deceit. They'll trick and abuse and exploit others. That's why, if you understood the money system and how bad these, you could say, I don't want to name the group of people that's organizing it all. That'll get me in trouble. But there's an elite group of people that are, no, not that. It's different. They are that. They are the Illuminati people. But they are actually flourishing in this world by deceiving the masses. But they're the agents of Kali. But that's how the original personality who inducted this age, Kali, that's how he flourished. Remember, he was a Shudra in the guise of a king. He was a low-class person trying to take the high positions of society. But to dharmically or religiously occupy, say, the role of a king, you have to follow so many religious principles. But because they don't follow such things, they're actually low-class persons, only dressed like kings. So their flourishing by deceit is also trying to destroy that leg, and the last leg of Dharma is being attacked. Remember, there's so much allegorical meaning here. This is happening to demigods, but when the demigods and the demons battle on subtle psychological levels that we can't perceive, it actually will leak out into society and everyone's impacted. So this is the battle that's happening. So the principles of religion do not stand on some dogmas or man-made formulas. So a lot of people, like actually I was talking to our friend Matt, and he's kind of under the impression right now that all religion is dogma or a bunch of man-made formulas, and they say this, that, and the other thing. Why? Because he's probably recognized many dogmas that have been placed into the category of religion. But that doesn't mean that true religion doesn't exist. It just means that maybe that person hasn't seen true religion yet. But they stand on 4 primary regulative observances, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So these are the principles of religion. Yes?
There's a repair outside to change your tire.
Okay. So, do I have to end?
I don't know.
My wife just texted me?
No, your wife's mother.
Okay. All right. He'll wait. So, the mass of people must be taught to practice these principles from childhood. Austerity means to accept voluntary things. I'll just finish this one and then we have to end. You know what? She'll get mad at me. So, and she's doing me a favor. So, we're going to end here. We'll do this purport tomorrow. We didn't get to do it. But Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki will learn more about the principles of religion. And, yes.